the rabbi fly out of the Arba'a Amot of Brooklyn due to his involvement in our sister synagogue, the Edmond J. Safra Synagogue in Brooklyn, and obviously the newly appointed position in a Magen David Yeshiva. He should be with great aslaha in all his endeavors. Amen. Today's class has been graciously sponsored Le'ilui Nishmat, Mr. Charles Kochab, Alav Shalom, from São Paulo, Brazil. Shaya Charles Kochab Ben Leah. This shi'ur has been graciously sponsored by his children and grandchildren. Let it be the zechut of tonight's class, as well as the beautiful Sa'udah Mizvah set up in his memory after the class, that his neshama will have an aliyah in Gan Eden. Amen. Since we do have a very large contingent of Brazilian viewers watching live this shi'ur, I'll switch to Portuguese literally for less than a minute. No nome do Kahal Kadosh da Sinagoga Safra da Ventura, agradecemos a família Kochab Abulafia por doar a palestra de hoje à noite na memória do avô e do pai, Shaya Charles Kochab Ben Leah. Que seja a vontade de Hashem, que as berachot e o devar Torá que o Rabino vai falar daqui a pouco seja para o Na'ilui Neshama. Without any doubt, we are living in challenging times, and Baruch Hashem, we are seeing a couple of miracles, especially since Friday, and on a daily basis, how many hostages, Baruch Hashem, were released, but it's not enough until the last of the hostages is able to get back home and the peace and harmony reigns back in Eretz Israel. Definitely our hearts and our prayers and our ma'asim tovim are directly connected to Eretz Israel. And that is in a way the topic of tonight's shi'ur. The lecture calls Eretz Israel, how can we save lives and defeat our enemies remotely? So Be'ezat Hashem, we have the great Hacham that is going to give us some practical tools and definitely ways that we can not only help our brethren of Eretz Israel, but actually helping ourselves. And in this zechut, we should have the zechut of not only hearing Besurot Tovot from Eretz Israel all around, but we'll have the zechut of the Geulah Shelema b'mira v'yamenu. Amen.
Hazako Baruch. Birshut Marad Atra, Rabbi Galimidi Sheikhye. I'm no stranger to this synagogue. I've been coming to visit the Safra Synagogue here in Miami, I think even before the rabbi got here. Although I was friends with the rabbi from the beginning, from when he was in downtown Miami, in Bet Israel, on Prairie and Chase, and then I followed the rabbi to Sha'ar Ezra on the corner of Alton Road. And now, Baruch Hashem, we're with the rabbi here at the Safra Synagogue. And since the rabbi has taken over, and for the many years that he's been here, the synagogue only has been growing by leaps and bounds, both physically and more importantly, spiritually. The rabbi is responsible for the mikveh that is here, both mikveh kelim and the mikveh nashim, which is integral. The rabbi is responsible for the kollel, that is a key to any synagogue, and the wonderful library that graces this beautiful synagogue. In Brooklyn, we monitor itorah.com. That's our flagship internet communication where we spread Torah throughout the world. And we have Google Analytics. Every week I get the results of who people are listening to. And he gave him the 3 magic words, Ilahad Me'ir Aneni. And subsequently, he saves his sister-in-law, and sure enough, the government comes after the warden. And they put him on trial, and they put him on the guillotine. And as they're about to kill him, he says the 3 words, Ilahad Me'ir Aneni, and all of a sudden everybody runs away, and he's able to save himself. So that's a sigula. Ilahad Me'ir Aneni. And I know you know this because we read it in the Sinichot, or if you might have lost an object, and they told you, oh, say Ilahad Me'ir Aneni, light a candle, put some money in tzedakah, and you'll find it. And I'm telling you, it works. I was in Miami this last Pesach, and we were on a boat, and the captain was about to turn on the keys to the boat. All of a sudden, the keys fell into the water. How are you going to find keys in the water now? The water's all the way, the hundreds of millions of gallons of water. What kind of captain is this? He dropped the keys in the water. So anyway, goy. So I told the guy, listen, he said, how am I going to find it? You're going to find it. Repeat after me. Like the guy. Elahad, Elahad, Demeir, Demeir. And then all of a sudden, they start to float on top of the water. They came up from the top of the water. You see them floating. There it is. I don't believe it. It's a miracle. It's a miracle. So anyway, it works. But I want to understand, what does it mean, Elahad, Demeir, Aneni? What does it mean? Should I tell you what I thought it meant? And I have to be, I'm embarrassed. Because sometimes when I prepare these classes, the biggest student that learns the most from these classes is myself. I don't want you to think, oh, I knew this for 30 years. No, I just learned this now as I was preparing. I always thought Elahad Me'ir means the God of Rabbi Meir, because that was his name, and that's what we nicknamed him, Rabbi Meir Balanes. So the God of Rabbi Meir, answer me. And we don't say Rabbi Meir, we just say Meir. And that's what it means. But if you look in some of the old Silichot books, you see it says Elaha, and in parentheses, the Rabbi. It puts that word in parentheses. Although we don't say it, but I always understood the God of Rabbi Meir, answer me. Until I opened up in the back of the book, in the small words, actually, the very small words, of Maharsha. And Maharsha over here says the following. V'yesh ledakdek. He has an observation. Heach yichad Rabbi Meir shemo shel HaKadosh Baruch Hu al atzmo b'chayav. How did Rabbi Meir use Hashem's name next to his name, Elahad de Meir, while he was still alive? Because we have a rule. Shahare Amru. En HaKadosh Baruch Hu miyached shemo ala tzadikim b'chayehem. As long as the tzadikim are still alive, God will not associate his name with them. Interesting. It's because the tzaddik is a tzaddik when he's alive, but we don't know if he's going to make it to the finish line. So God is not certain that he's going to remain a tzaddik. So God says, I don't put my names on the tzaddikim until it's over, till they pass. As the pasuk says, Elohei Abraham. Abraham had passed away, so God said, Elohei Abraham. Ufahad Yitzhak. Yitzhak was still alive. So God says, I can't say Elohei Yitzhak. I mean, it looks like he's going to make it to the finish line, but until he does, I cannot put my name on him. So Rabbi Maharsha asks, Elahad de Meir. How could Rabbi Meir put God's name next to his name when he was alive? It's a strong question. So listen to what he answers. V'yesh lomar, delo amar Elahad de Meir, rak lesiman be'alma al shemo. He didn't mean his name. It's just a siman. It's a euphemism. Velo nitkaven kol ikar al shemo. He wasn't referring to his name whatsoever. Of course, the Biblian knows you can't put God's name next to a living tzaddik. So what did he mean? Rak nitkaven Elahad de Meir la'ares ve'ladarim aleha. Oh. Every morning in Shahrit, we say that God is called the Meir. What is the Meir? The one that provides illumination. The one that provides light. After all, God created the sun. So we say, HaMeir la'ares. God provides illumination to the earth, ve'ladarim aleha, and to the inhabitants. So what the rabbi was saying, He was saying, listen, Elahad Meir, the God that provides light and illumination to the world, Aneni. Happened to be that the word Meir, it was his name, so it's cute. You know, he found a word that has his name, but also is a reference to God, and that's why he chose it. And that's why he says, Elahad Meir. Very nice. So that's one interpretation, but that's not the interpretation I came to speak about. Although it's a Hadush in itself. Somebody asks you in the street tonight, what does Elahad Meir mean? Rabbi Meir, right? I'm wrong. That's what, for sure that does not mean that. It might mean Ilaha de Meir la'aretz v'ladarim aleha, the God that provides sunlight, which is another way of saying Hashem answer. But now I came to give you the second answer of the Maharsha, which is a tremendous Hadush. Now, there's no seatbelts on these chairs I see. In Brooklyn, in our synagogue, we added seatbelts to the chairs because when we present big Hadushim, we don't want our members to, God forbid, fall on the floor. Our insurance company said it's a liability. So over here, I just have to tell you to hold on. I can't tell you to put your seatbelts on, but hold on. Because a big Hadush is now about to emerge. He says, another answer. ועוד יש לומר, אלהד מאיר לנו, the God that provided light for us, במלכות יוון, during the kingdom of the Greeks, הקודמת, the previous exile, בנס הנרות של חנוכה, regarding the miracle that God performed on the lights of the menorah of Hanukka. We know there was a miracle. They found some oil. There was only enough to last for one night, and it lasted for 8. You know that miracle. We commemorated by lighting the menorah. So that was a nes, it was an open miracle. The one-day miracle, one pach shemen for one night that lasted 8 days. When I studied in Lakewood Yeshiva, they used to give us off the weekend of Hanukkah. So they give you off Shabbat and Sunday. Usually we have yeshiva on Sunday, but like on the Hanukkah, they gave us off on Sunday. And I don't have to tell you, the boys would take off the whole week. And then the Rosh Yeshiva would come back after the holiday and say, this is the miracle of Yeshiva of Lakewood, the one-day vacation that lasted 8 days. The only difference is that this was every year this miracle happened, not like the menorah that happened once. Anyway, this Maharsha is phenomenal. When a person says Elahad de Meir, what he basically is saying is the God that provided the miracle of lights on Hanukkah, when he lit up the menorah of the 8 days miraculously, Aneni. Wow. The word Meir is referring to Hanukkah. That means you're in the middle of February. You're months away from Hanukkah. But you're connecting somehow to that miracle in the Beit HaMikdash, the miracle of lights, the miracle of Meir. And we're connecting to the Nes Hanukkah, which the menorah lit brightly, which is an open miracle, a miracle beyond nature. And that's what it means, Elahad Meir, the God of Hanukkah, the God of Nerot Hanukkah. I mean, it's amazing. And what troubles me is, Rabbi Meir, we don't have other holidays to connect to that are miraculous. What'd you pick Hanukkah for? I mean, if I was looking, if that's the rule that you just connect yourself to a miraculous event, I would say, Elahad Kiryat Yamsuf Aneni. When God split the sea, the Midrash says, according to one opinion, there were 50 miracles that took place. And according to another opinion, 250 miracles. So if you're looking for some sort of miraculous event in Jewish history, Kiryat Yamsuf. You don't want Kiryat Yamsuf. The clouds of glory, Ananei Kavod. They traveled with us for 40 years in the desert. What did those clouds of glory not do? They provided shade. They provided heat. They pressed our clothes. They flattened the terrain. They protected us from incoming missiles. So I would have said, Elahad anane kavod aneni. No, Rabbi Meir does not pay attention to those stupendous supernatural miracles that I mentioned, but for some reason he's fixated. Meir, the same God that lit that menorah and kept those lights lit, aneni. And I'm asking the question, what is so significant about that miracle of Hanukka that all year long we're able to tap into it, and the miracles that happened then will happen for us, and we are brought to salvation? What is so great about this Meir? This is my question. But the Maharsha says it. I want to be clear. So now when you leave, somebody says, oh, you went to a shura on Elahad Meir. What does it mean, Elahad Meir? Oh, Meir means Hanukka. What? Hanukka? What are you talking about? That's what the rabbi said from the Maharsha. It means Hanukka. The God that lit miraculously the lights of Nirot Hanukka Aneni. But we say it all year long. You can say it all year long, no problem. But that's what you're directing your prayer to that event. And I'm asking, what's the secret of that event? Good. That's it. We're one book into it, only have one other book, and that's it. The Gemara I'm quoting you now is in Shabbat, page 77. Listen to a Gemara. Rabbi Zera ashkach le Rabbi Yehuda. There was a rabbi called Rabbi Zera. He found once Rabbi Yehuda, the Havaka'e apetcha debe hamu. He was standing on the porch of his father-in-law. He was visiting his father-in-law. V'hajyad dehava badiha da'ateh. And he was in a good mood. Okay. He was in a good mood, maybe because his mother-in-law wasn't home. I don't know exactly why he was in a good mood. But it says he was in a good mood. No problem. The Gemara doesn't tell us why. But he was badiha da'ateh. And he said, you can ask me any question and I'll answer you. You see, you have to catch the rabbi when he's in a good mood. Sometimes they catch the rabbi and they ask him a question. It's not the right place, it's not the right time. The rabbi's busy, he's nervous, so he pushes you off. But once in a while, the rabbi has peace of mind, he has tranquility, he has serenity, and at that moment he says, I'm in such a mood, I'm taking questions on any topic, any subject. Wow. So now Rabbi Zera, he can ask any question. So he asks the question. What does he say? Amar le, mai ta'ama ize masgan beresha v'hadar imre. Why do the black goats go before the white sheep? That's the question. If you ever went to a farm, you see the farmer, he has goats and sheep. The black goats go first, and the sheep are behind. So the Yizirah says, why? And I'm saying, that's the question you chose. You could have asked anything. When's Mashiach coming? How about that one? You could have asked for the lottery ticket numbers. You could have asked for the fu'ashinim. You could have asked for anything. The question that was bothering you in the Talmud that you never answered to. What's the one question that comes to his mind? The goats go first and the sheep go second. Why? Now, if I was Rabbi Yehuda, that would have put me immediately in a bad mood. What kind of question is that? What kind of silly question? You have a genie come out of the bottle. You get one question. It's, oh, yeah, the goats. Goats. So I don't even understand the question to start off with, but the greatness of this rabbi, Rabbi Yehuda, he was in such a good mood, he even answered that question. What could he have answered? We don't even know the question to know the answer. So he says, now by the way, I am certain that if I stop here and I don't give you the answer, nobody will lose any sleep tonight. I guarantee you nobody on the way out is going to say, but what's the answer? You can't, that's a cliffhanger. You can't leave us hanging over there. The black goats, the white sheep. I mean, this is it's a brain teaser. What's going on over here? It doesn't bother me as well. But it bothered the great rabbi. So he answers. He says, Amar le, kibriyato shel olam. It's actually something that is so fundamental. It's actually at the crux of the creation. It's a principle in the creation. It's something that God set forth as part of the nature, the way the world works. Wow. So he hit on a theorem here. He hit on an axiom that is so fundamental to the way the world works. That's the way the world works. Black goats go first, and the white sheep go behind. Why is that such a principle? Why is that such an axiom of B'riyatosh shel Olam? So he says, I'll tell you why. The Beresha Hashocha V'Hadar Nehora. Oh. He says, because in life, first it has to be dark, and then it becomes light. That's the rule. The black goats have to come first. That's the night. That's the dark. And they're followed by the white sheep. That's the day. I don't understand the question, and I don't understand the answer. I mean, to me, the answer is more enigmatic than the question. But they knew what they were talking about, because then he moves on to the next subject. What do you mean? That's the way of the world. Night comes before day. Okay, it's true. I guess, if you follow the way the Jewish people count the day, we start from the night. But we know that. That's such a deep answer. What was he saying? So now I have to go search to try to find a rabbi that will explain this Gemara. In the Zechut of the Kahal, I found it. There was a great rabbi called Rabbi Tzadok HaKohen. Rabbi Tzadok HaKohen was a great Kabbalist and a Jewish philosopher. He wrote many books. For those that are interested in reading it in its source, the book that I'm quoting from tonight is called Resise Laila. This book is written in paragraphs. I'm quoting the 24th paragraph of the book called Resise Laila. Ayin Sham. I'm going to paraphrase what he says. He's quoting this Gemara. The black goats before the white sheep. B'riyatosh shel olam, like the creation of the world. That what? The beresha hashocha v'hadar nehora. Hashocha always must precede Nehora. And he says, this is an incredible yesod. It's a very, very important foundation of life. So he says like this. In life, anytime something great is going to happen, something monumental, something positive, something beneficial, it always must be preceded with a difficult situation. There's no such thing as easy street. Easy street always has to be preceded with difficult street. It's the way it is. He doesn't say why Hashem put that into the creation. I cannot tell you why every right angle is 90 degrees. That's the way it is. And I cannot tell you why a squared plus b squared equals c squared. That's what Pythagorean said. He's right. There's certain rules of gravity. I can't explain the mechanics of it. It's just one of those rules. So he says, a rule of life, whenever something great is going to happen, it's got to be preceded with tremendous, tremendous difficulty. And commensurate to the difficulty, that will be the greatness that will follow. That's a rule. And he gives two examples. I'll give you them. I'll give you a third example, but he gives you two. Example is the greatest event in Jewish history, the giving of the Torah at Mount Sinai, 6th day of Sivan, the year 2448 from creation. But what did the Jewish people have to endure before they got to Har Sinai? 210 years of living in the exile of Egypt. And that wasn't an easy place to live in. It was a hostile place to the Jewish people. Paro, the king, slaughtered 300 babies a day. Nothing new under the sun. This didn't start with Hamas. Paro killed 300 babies a day. And he bathed in their blood. It's new to us, this anti-Semitism and this brutality, but it's not new to the world. Paro used Jewish babies as human bricks. So you talk about gory and graphic. It's been going on as long as there were Jews in the world and Goyim in the world. That was the relationship. So we lived there, and 86 of those 210 years was avodat parech, backbreaking, physical, psychological torture. And we reached the lowest level of spiritual impurity, 49.999. We were 1 nanosecond away from the abyss of spiritual oblivion. We were in a very low place. And as a result of that low place that we were in, which is really called deep darkness, all of a sudden we emerged, and as a result, now we are ready for Har Sinai. Har Sinai can only come, the great light of Matan Torah can only be preceded by the dark tunnel of Galut Mitzrayim. Don't ask me why. It's B'riyato shel Olam. Don't ask me, why is there gravity? It's the way it is. There's certain principles of the way Hashem created the world. His second proof, one of the greatest buildings that was ever built, besides our synagogue in Brooklyn, was the Mishkan, the tabernacle. Gold and silver, and it was all with beautiful leather and fabrics, and all the exquisite pieces of furniture. And most important wasn't the structure, but what the structure accomplished. It brought the Shekhinah down to live amongst the people. Which is, imagine you have a community of houses, and all of a sudden there's a house in the middle. So who lives there? Oh, that's God's house. God lives in your community? Yeah, he lives there. You see him? Yeah, we see him every day. He lives with you in the community? Yeah, he's there. His house, here he lives. That's where they lived in the Midbar. God lived with the people. Not you had to look up. You look straight. He was there in the house. Moshe never to go speak to him. Come out. I just spoke to God. Well, how is he? Oh, he's doing fine. Bring a korban. But what happened before the Mishkan? What was the impetus of the Mishkan? The golden calf. One of the lowest points in Jewish history. And the Tzedakah Kohen says, the road to build the Mishkan had to go through that dark tunnel of the golden calf, where God came along and said, instead of using the gold for this, use your gold to build me a house. But it had to come in that path, in that journey. First, the black goats have to come, and then the white sheep, which means always difficulty must precede benefit and benevolence and charm and kindness. That's it. It's a rule. If you want an example from the modern world, the Jewish people experienced the destruction of European Jewry. They call it the Holocaust, the Shoah. 1/3 of the Jewish people were eliminated. The former Prime Minister of Israel, Begin, once met with the former President of the United States, Carter. I think Carter's sitting Shiv'ah for his wife. Anyway, he visited Carter, And he says, Mr. Carter, the Germans tertiated my people. Carter says, I never heard that word tertiate. He says, did you hear the word decimate? He says, decimate, I know. He says, what is decimate? He says, decimate is to kill 1 in 10. He says, exactly. They didn't decimate, they tertiated, they killed 1 in 3. The Holocaust is the darkest period of time of the last century. Or I would say centuries. I mean, we cannot wrap our brains around the atrocity. We struggle to wrap our brains around 1,400 people, Hashem Yimkom Damam, that are massacred in one day. Could you imagine the number 6 million is beyond comprehension. And then it's over. And then what happens right after? God gives us a gift, the land of Israel. And all of a sudden, a land that we didn't have access for over 2,000 or close to 2,000 years, and all of a sudden, the silver platter, the land of Israel is founded. A few years after that, the Kotel HaMa'aravi, all of a sudden, God's giving us all gifts. There's Israel, there's the Kotel, expanding the borders. All the yeshivas in Europe that were destroyed were rebuilt in Eretz Israel again, bigger and stronger. And before you know it, the nation is alive, the nation is vibrant, there's a revival. And Am Yisrael, when the people thought that we were down for the count, and all of a sudden Am Yisrael, Ta'ayat Betim. But according to Rav Tzadok, you couldn't get to that revival unless you went through the darkness. I mean, to me, that's a lesson. Because everybody goes through darkness. I never met a person that has a straight path. Yellow brick road. The people that I meet, their road has depressions. And they go down and then they go up. But now I'm comforted that when a person is going through a difficult time, whether it's in his personal life or it's a communal life or whatever it may be, he must know that that is a preparation for something great that's going to happen. And that's the prerequisite. Light always was preceded by dark. I could write a book on this. At one point in my career, I found myself going backwards. We made such advances and advances. And all of a sudden, there was a standstill, and we started to go back. I cannot say that it wasn't a challenge those years, and it was not a test. But you start to think to yourself, how is this possible? You're accelerating, traveling 100 miles an hour forward, and all of a sudden, you find yourself in reverse, and you see the other cars passing you. So how could this be over here? I saw a big rabbi, Rabbi Reuven Elbaz, from Israel, big rabbi. And I told him my worries. King Solomon said, "De'aga belev ish yasichena la'achirim." If a person has de'aga, a worry, or something that bothers him, the biggest cure is to speak it out with somebody. Let somebody else hear your worries. They might have something smart to say. Don't hold it in. Well, my therapist was Rabbi Elbaz. So he smiled. He says, what do you think? He says, the Gemara says that every blade of grass has an angel that monitors that blade. And at a certain point, the angel hits the blade of grass and tells the blade, grow. I'll tell it to you in the Hebrew. Lechol esev ba'esev yesh lo malach shemake oto ve'omer lo gedal. Every blade of grass has an angel that hits it and says, grow. So Rabbi Elbaz asked a simple question. Why does he have to hit it first? Just say grow. And the answer is because before you're going to have a growth spurt, it's got to come with a makah. That's the way it works. The makah is what motivates and inspires the growth. Nothing for nothing. You can't just grow. So he says, you're experiencing now a growth spurt, but you're going through the part of the process of the makah. It's uncomfortable. But don't think that after it's all over, you're going to be where you are. It's to propel you forward. But you have to go through it. It's to make you better, maybe to make you more humble, whatever the reason is. You're going through the makah now, but take my word, from the makah will come gedal. And then he said, this Gemara, the black goats have to come before the white sheep. The white sheep represent success, prosperity, the good times. But the good times, as good as they are, but in order to benefit from them, you got to pay for them. And the price is the black goats. It's the way it is. And I'm sure the rabbi could write a book on this. And I'm sure he spoke about this from personal experience. And the great people that I know, their greatness is that they didn't fall into depression when the ground fell from under them. They're able to weather the storm, and they recognize that this is a process, and they got to get through it. They push through it, and then they find themselves on the other side. And this is not only in a personal, but this is in the community as well. Anybody that ever got involved in a community project knows. What do they think? Because you can come, I want to build a shul. Oh, come on, easy, build a shul. Hashem loves shul. This was going to be easy. Take my word. You read the book one day, you'll see it. Not an easy process. But you have to know that it should be expected. So that's the Gemara. Nice rule. But I wasn't happy. I don't like this rule. I'll tell you why. There's got to be another system. There's got to be a way where we could bypass the tunnel. I don't want to go through the dark tunnel to get to the end, to the light. There's got to be a way to get straight to the light. I mean, I'm looking for a shortcut, I have to tell you. I'm looking for a segula, exactly. I'm looking for a good luck charm. Is there a way to bypass the tunnel and take the bridge? That's the question that I had. I know I'm asking a difficult question because the Gemara is saying, hey, you're dealing with Biriyato shel Olam. This is part of the creation here. So it's like you're saying, I believe in gravity, but is the way to bypass it? You can't bypass it. That's what it is. Anyway, I found it. And this is the segula that I'm coming to tell you tonight. But in order to understand what I'm going to say, you need a few introductions. Now, what I'm going to tell you now is going to sound mystical. The reason why it's going to sound mystical is because it is. A lot of what I'm telling you now comes from the Kabbalah and from the books of the Zohar. So, I'm going to reveal these books that you might not have access to, but I'm going to tell you what it says. When God created the world on day one, he says, Yehi Or, which means, let there be light. Now that's a problem. How did you learn that pasuk? What does it mean, let there be light? So you say, what do you mean? The sun. No, it can't be. The sun wasn't created till Wednesday. Unless you tell me, no, he created the sun on Sunday. I guess that's why they call it Sunday, the first day of creation. But he didn't hang it up until Wednesday. It's like a painting. The painting was made and then he hung it up on Wednesday. That's possible. Incidentally, the world was created with Or. The scientists today, they talk about, at the beginning of the world, they talk about billions of years ago. They have the years all wrong. But when it comes to what happened, they say there was a great explosion of light. Guess what? They're right. I don't know what they call it. They have a name for it. I'm not interested in what they call it. Yeah, I know. I'm not interested in what they call it. But they talk about this big explosion of light. Of course, that's Yehi Or. That was the big explosion of light. Hazak Baruch. I know it's called, but I don't want to say it publicly. We call it the Yehi Or theory. But the Kabbalah comes along and says, put the Yehi Or theory on the side. On the first day of creation, God created a spiritual light that would eventually be referred to as Or Haganuz. Wow, what is that? Well, I can't tell you too much about it because I never experienced it, but it's a spiritual light that if you connect to it, you can see from one end of the world to the other end. It's a very, very holy light, and it brings great blessing to anybody that can attach themselves to this Or Haganuz. That's the Or. Now, the first one to enjoy it was Adam HaRishon. Adam was created on a Friday. And then God released the Or Haganuz from the box. Ganuz means it was in a box. Genizah. On Friday, God opened the box, and the light came out for 12 hours, the whole Friday afternoon. The Or Haganuz was also around the whole Friday night, another 12 hours, and the whole Shabbat day, another 12 hours. So for the first 36 hours of Adam's existence, he benefited from Or Haganuz. Then on Motzei Shabbat, it left. God said, humans are not ready for it. It's too strong, it's too powerful, and they're not on the level, so he put it back in the box. Motzei Shabbat, Adam recognized, hey, where'd the light go? So he tried to recover it. It says he took 2 stones and he started to rub them against each other, and a physical light came out. That's why on Saturday nights we make a beracha borei me'orei ha'esh to commemorate the fire that was invented by Adam HaRishon on Saturday night. Not commemorating the Thomas Edison light bulb. You're commemorating Adam HaRishon, the invention. Motzei Shabbat, the two stones. Oh, so that's Or Haganuz. Now, what do we know about Or Haganuz? Well, we know that we had it and we lost it. But you know what I say? I say we lost it. So what? I don't know what the Or Haganuz is to feel bad that we lost it. So it's not like, oh, ya haram, we lost it. What did you lose? I don't know, Or Haganuz. What was it? I don't know, it sounds like a good item. What does it do? No idea. So therefore, if we don't know what it is, we cannot understand the loss of not having it. And the books say, well, when Mashiach comes, the Or Haganuz will be released again. And when you get the Or Haganuz, it's going to be unbelievable. But what is it? So I searched in the books for a rational explanation of Or Haganuz that I could explain to myself, to simple people like myself, and then communicate it over to our members. What I'm telling you now comes from a rabbi called Sfat Emet. Sfat Emet. Rabbi good. Sfat Emet says there are 2 types of light. I'm quoting. Yesh Or HaSoref ve'Or HaMe'ir. Listen. Or HaSoref, Or HaMe'ir. I explain. Or HaSoref you're familiar with. Anytime you want to light something, you take, let's say, oil, but in order for the light to emerge, you need to burn the oil first. That means the oil needs to deteriorate before the light comes out. And by the end of the process, although you got a lot of light, there's no more oil. That's the way it works. And if you want to do it with a wax candle, it's the same thing. You can't have the candle and the wax. You can't have your cake and eat it too. To have the candle, you have to be willing to give up the wax. That's called Or HaSoref. Light always burns the fuel that it's consuming. That's combustion. That's the rules of science. But there's another type of light that you're not familiar with. It's called Or HaMe'ir. Sound familiar, that word, Me'ir? Oh, now you remember? That means we're almost done. We're making the circle now. Or Meir. What is Or Meir? Imagine you have a type of light where you could light it and the oil remains. There's no deterioration. There's no combustion. The wax remains, the oil remains intact. It's a light that doesn't burn anything. It's just light. And there's no destruction. It's called Or Meir. That Or is Or Haganuz. He says, in life, the Gemara is correct. You always have to have a dark moment before a good moment. That's the way it works. Choshech must precede Or. And even when you want to light something, you need to destroy the fuel to bring the light. But if you're connected to Or Haganuz, you don't need to have any destruction or any deterioration. It goes straight to light. You bypass the black goats and you go straight to the white sheep. So there's a connection, but you got to get to Or Haganuz. We don't have it. We don't have it. We don't have Or HaMeir. We don't have it. We only have Or HaSoref. But when Mashiach comes, it says fruit are going to grow on tree, like they are going today, but also baked products are going to grow on trees. You don't have to go to the bakery. Stand online and get a number. You go to the tree. What do you want? Two chalis. I want some jelly donuts. I want some croissant. Pick it off the tree. And it's fresh and it's ready to eat. You're not going to need to go through the difficult process of cutting the wheat and sifting the wheat and baking it. It's a big process. Or HaMeir. Everything is going to be a la carte. Everything will be ready. That's Or Haganuz. That means in this world, we don't have Or Haganuz. We have to follow the Gemara. Darkness and then light, the process. But there's going to come a time where you don't have to go through darkness. Everything else is going to be good initially, at the onset. Or Meir. Now watch. There was one time in history that God gave us a taste of Or Haganuz. There was a time in history when the Kohanim came to light the menorah, and when they lit the menorah, they only had enough for one night, and they filled it up, and when they came back the next day, the oil wasn't consumed. That was Or Haganuz right there. The miracle of Hanukka is a futurama of what Or Haganuz is. It's lighting without consumption. You following what I'm saying so far? All I need is one guy to understand that. I'm happy. That's it. Okay, we got a minyan, understand. Baruch Hashem. You understand what the miracle of Hanukka is? Borei Olam revealed Or Haganuz. Incidentally, what I'm telling you now comes from a rabbi called Rokeach. Now this is incredible. The Rokeach says, not only did God reveal the Or Haganuz in that year of the miracle of Nes Hanukka, but every year the Or Haganuz comes into this world for 4 hours. 4 hours a year. You believe this? That means this year there's going to be 4 hours where we can tap and connect to Or Haganuz. When? He says when a person lights the menorah, the first half hour of every night, there is a flavor of Or Haganuz in that lighting. Even though I know what you're going to say, but my oil is consumed. You're right. It's Or HaSoref, but it's connecting back to the original miracle, and there's a flavor, there's a connection to the Or Haganuz. You believe what we're saying? If you know what it means, the first half hour of lighting the menorah, there's Or Haganuz over there. And what does it mean? There you make a prayer. I'll tell you what I say at Or Haganuz time. Borei Olam, I'm going through all these problems, but it doesn't have to be that way. Now I'm connected to Or Haganuz. Let it go straight, without the hiccups, without the depression, without the black goats having to come before the white sheep. This Or Haganuz is direct. And for those moments of the first half hour of the lighting of the menorah, that's the prayer that we make by the menorah. But I'm sorry to tell you, people don't know that. They light the menorah, and then they run thinking that they're going to find Or Haganuz in the jelly donut. No, they're not going to find it. They're going to find some other stuff in there. Or they light the menorah. Okay, we got rid of that. Go eat something. Go out for dinner. Or go spin a dreidel. Go eat some chocolate. I'm not against any of those minhagim. But the first half hour of the menorah is Or Haganuz. This is the greatest moment of tefillah of the whole year. The Rokeah says you're connecting to the Or Haganuz. And if you follow the Sephardi custom of one menorah per household, on the first night you light one, and then two, and then three, and then four, then five, then six, then seven, 8. Altogether you're lighting 36 candles, corresponding to 36 hours that the Or Haganuz was around in the time of Adam HaRishon. But this is the bypass, don't you understand? That's the bypass road. The bypass road is to connect to Or Haganuz. So how do you do that? You light the menorah, and you say after you light the menorah 3 words. Elahad me'ir aneni. That's the Segula. Hanukka bypasses the darkness before the light. Elahad me'ir. Rabbi Meir taught us a secret. When you connect to Nerot Hanukka, you go straight to your prosperity. You go straight to the success. You go straight to the good, to the sweetness, without having to go through the difficulty. That's Elahadim, that's the Segula. That's why he said Hanukka. Elahadim Me'ir, he connected us to that ness. Now, you could do it all year long, but the best time to do it is on Hanukka when it's lit. Like I told you earlier, you could do this in February and it'll work. I did it on Pesach, and the captain found his keys. It works. But the best time of the year to tap into it is when it's there. And that's during Hanukka. And by the way, if you think I'm exaggerating, open up the Ben Ish Chai, the Rabino Yosef Chaim from Baghdad, and he says there's an old custom they had in Baghdad, that on one of the nights of Hanukka, they light a separate candle in memory of Rabbi Meir, and after they light that candle, they say, Elahad Meir Aneni. That means the Ben Ish Chai knew that there was a connection between Or HaMeir, Elahad Meir, and the Orot of Hanukka. He lit a candle for the Meir on Hanukka next to the menorah. He says it in Beferush in Parashat Miketz, Abshara Rishonah. And that's the secret I came to tell you tonight. And this year you have to add an extra prayer. I am certain that what we're going through now in Eretz Yisrael is part of a process. It's a process. And it's a bitter process. And it's an agonizing process. It's a process that is not for the faint-hearted. Could you imagine? 18-year-olds and 19-year-olds have to be in the front lines to witness the graphic and gory details of this event unfolding in front of our eyes. We are definitely going through the moment of the black goats. I have no doubt the white sheep are going to follow. That's the rule. That's the rule. It has to happen. The white sheep always follow. But on Hanukka, now I can pray to God and say, why does it have to be that way? Let the white sheep come and end the darkness. It doesn't have to be a long darkness like we have in the North Pole. Let it be a short winter night. Let it finish quickly. And you know what? Get rid of the whole darkness. But we don't do that. You're right. You don't do that with the regular light. But when Or Haganuz takes effect, that's the order of the day. And that's something we can pray for. That Borei Olam can change the process. Although everybody says, no, that's what it says in the books. First people have to die, people have to get blown up, people have to suffer. Why? Borei Olam can do anything he wants. God's not limited by a process. God's not limited because it says it in a book. Borei Olam can do whatever he wants. He has veto power. And the time to pray for the alternate route, not the tunnel, but the bridge, is during Nerot Hanukka. I think we have a great opportunity. So that's what I was tapped. Answer the question. What could we do to change and make a difference, to save? That's exactly what we could do. You could light a candle every day in the rabbi's memory and make a prayer and give charity. That will definitely benefit. But it's with kavanah. You're thinking to yourself, the God of Nes Hanukka that revealed Or Haganuz into the world, where Or Haganuz is not Or HaSoref, it's Or HaMe'ir. It's a light that does not have to be preceded by destruction or deterioration. It's a light that goes Or Yashar, like they call it in the Kabbalah. It's Or Yashar, not Or Hozer. That's the secret. 3 words. Elahad Me'ir. Now, that's all I have to say today, but I have one more comment. It's more of a maybe it's inappropriate, but to file a grievance, although I don't publicly file grievances usually, but it's a general grievance that I have. Not necessarily on Hanukka, but general attitude towards mitzvot. We have a great generation that performs the mitzvot in the most beautiful ways. But there might be one area that might need some help. Although there are people that love to fulfill the mitzvah in the best way, but they don't have the understanding of the preparation. They don't want to be involved in the preparation. Let somebody else handle it, and I'll get to the last minute and eat the matzah, or sit in the sukkah. But I want to get my hands dirty. It's a phone call. Today you call anybody to do anything for you. The preparation for the mitzvah is valuable. It's something that we should not be interested in farming out to others when we have the ability to do ourselves. There is something to say about getting your hands dirty in a mitzvah. Again, today there's so much services that you can do. Somebody will build your sukkah, hang up your mezuzot, make your matzot. And today, very easy, you go to the store, they already have the menorah prepared for you. When we were young, you had to have a menorah. You have to put the candle in, put the oil in. That's when we were young. Today, who wants to do that? Today they give it to you ready made. The guy in China did it for you already. He put the oil in, even though the Shas says when you pour the oil in the cup, there's kabanot. Okay, they had the kabanot for you. And I'm sure that if they would sell not only pre-made, but pre-lit. Pre-lit, we got to light it for, it's lit. You want to stick it there, it's lit already. I was in a store in Brooklyn. I'm sure that this Yetzirah didn't come to Florida, but where I come from, this big Yetzirah, I was in the store a couple of weeks before Pesach. So they have all the products, no problem. So they have, for $9.99, a bottle, pre-made salt water. So you can dip the celery. Pre-made salt water. How difficult is it to make salt water? You take salt, you put it in the water. So I went to the guy, went to the manager, I said, I have a complaint. You got to put the celery in it already for us. I don't want to have to dip the celery in it. You got to put the celery in, pre-dipped celery. I just want to pull it out. And the guy, he said, what's a great idea? It's a great, next year you're going to see, we're going to have the celery in there. And for extra $1, a guy will come and pull it out for you also, fish it out. I mean, it's unbelievable. But that's the attitude. We want to do the mitzvot, but we don't get our hands dirty. I'm not telling you that you don't fulfill the mitzvah. If you're a pre-made guy, God bless you. And I believe the Or Haganuz will come in your menorah also. I'm not saying it won't. It will. And you'll bypass the darkness and you'll have all the blessings. I'm just making an op-ed for the journal that there's something to say, especially when it comes to Nerot Hanukka, where the books talk about the preparation. The books talk about making the wicks. The books talk about filling it up, putting it up. So you got some oil on your hands. That's oil of Or Haganuz, nothing to be embarrassed of. But to the point that I make tonight, it is our prayer for all our members that follow the Biriyato Shel Olam of Hashocha Ulbatar Nehora, that they follow the process of first they get a hit and then they have a growth spurt. Those that are in the system of Vahi Erev, Vahi Boker, those of us that have to go through Galut Mitzrayim before we get to Matan Torah and experience the Holocaust before we get the land of Israel, we pray to God, let us tap into Or Haganuz, and we say it in 3 words, Elaha de Meir Aneni. Thank you very much. Another way. Another way.
You should add it.
We need all the ways. No.
1 second. Rabotai, shh. We're going to say Rabbi Hananiah, a quick ashkava. Remember Kiryat Shema and Birkat Levana, whoever didn't say it. Baruch Adonai Le'olam. Amen. Amen. Rabbi Hananiah